In this video, I want to share how I made this illustration inside of Adobe Photoshop, including the atmospheric perspective in the far background. And you can achieve this in any software of your choice. So the first thing, of course, I do is to sketch, and I'm using very rough strokes. The brush that I'm using, for those who want to, is a hard round brush with pressure sensitivity turned on, and then I'm going in with rough strokes. I will speed this up so we complete the sketching process, and then we move to the next step. After sketching the tree, I'm going in to sketch the characters, making sure to map out the proportions for everything, and reposition everything to the composition. Also, I'm not doing the details, this is just a sketch, and I'm doing a general overview of the figure. So for the heads, I'm using the circles. For the bodies, I'm using rectangles. If you know shape and line, this is what I'm using to achieve this kind of sketch. A very simple sketch, line sketch. And then I finish off the sketch with a background, also very rough and light and easy, and the far background in the same manner. Now, after sketching, I want to start with the characters. And now for the characters, I'm turning down opacity and now including more details and making a clean line art. Some of the things I'm filling in are my own imagination. For instance, the eyes and the mouth and the nose were not captured in the sketch, but I'm doing them now. This is the second. This is more like the second sketch, and you can see that I'm carefree with the lines and the strokes, because I'll refine it even further. After this, I'm capturing now the details, and then I'll go on to capture the clean line art in the third sketch. After doing the second sketch, now I want to use the second sketch to do a refined line art that I will use to color in. And I'm using a hard round brush, increasing smoothing and pressure sensitivity, and then now doing clean lines for everything. After the lines are done, I'm starting to color using a paint bucket. So I'm simply picking a color. I've also duplicated the layers. So I'm using the lower layer to fill in the colors with a paint bucket. And for the areas that the paint bucket is not able to fill, I'm using a brush to do that. Here I forgot a piece of sock, so I'm filling that line and then picking a color for filling in the socks, and then the shoes and the soles of the shoes. And then I'll move to the next character, the face, and then the next character. Backyard, sketching the tree, the leaves and everything else, and then coloring quickly. And then I'm doing the foreground, filling in with the grass layer, and then I will fill it in with a green color. And then I drag the background below the tree layer so that the tree looks like it's sitting on the foreground layer. And then with a pressure sensitive brush, I'm going in with brown to make a patch, like for a path. When you walk around the path you leave some marks, so I'm doing that to make sure that we have patches of brown and then we have patches of green. Look like this is a place where people walk. So the foreground and the tree is done. I'm now moving to the far background to draw the layers in the background and the trees and everything else. I'm changing the brush to hard round so that I get more defined edges. And then this is me trying to gauge the stroke size of the brush, if it is desirable, and then I'm going in and doing the trees in the very far background on their own different layer. And the reason I'm doing this on their own layer is so that I'm able to effect the atmospheric perspective. You need to have the far background on its own layer so you can apply some effects to make it look distant. I'm also coloring the trees with the different shades of green, as you see, just for variety. And then part of the background is brown for land and the other one is a richer green. And now I'm duplicating the background layer. The far background layer is duplicated, so I can do a few things on it. And before I forgot the leaves that were falling, so let me just go in, adding a new layer and drawing the leaves that are falling, because the children that we drew earlier are pointing at falling leaves, so we want to show them falling. And then we'll go back to making atmospheric perspective on the far background. I'm doing the leaves the same way, just drawing them outline with black and then going in with a paint bucket or a brush tool and painting over the leaves. I'm happy with the 4. I've duplicated everything, and then I'm using a paint bucket just to fill in one after another. Alternatively, I can use a magic wand to select the area outside and then do an inverse of the selection and then paint over. So that way I'm able to paint over all the leaves at a go. And then I'm merging the layers. Then we need to enable the children's layer so we see what is happening. I want to resize them relative to the size of the tree, and each of the boy is on its own individual layer. I'm resizing them so they do not look like they are the same height as the tree. And then back to in between the foreground and the far background, I'm introducing a white layer and then reducing the opacity. And then on the far background layer, the one I've duplicated, I'm going to filter and Gaussian blur, and then increasing the blur just a little bit so that it looks distant. So we do not focus on what's happening in the far background, we focus on what's in the foreground. And this is how I achieve atmospheric perspective. You can also go in further and adjust the opacity of the layer if you do not have any other layers behind it, and this is how you get the final result.